and this may not be popular for me to mention with somebody who's sport inclined, but as having spent a lot of time training heavily in this sport, if you are training it for sport and for the extreme, if you're training to try to get better results, it may not always align with health, with optimal health, depending on the person. So I know that for myself, and that's mostly what I can speak from as my own experience, that I have a lot of imbalances from training that way, and
Wow.
particularly from sitting with heavy bells in the rack position. I'm tight here. It's harder for me to get to that open position. And I think it is important that if you're going to take sport to a certain level, that you do need to do work to stretch out or strengthen things that you're
Wow.
not
Yeah.
stretching or strengthening within the sport. Because I think you will see with a lot of high level lifters, there are certain imbalances you can
Yeah.
note posturally,
Yeah.
either
Wow.
forward head posture or extreme lordosis
Yeah.
or different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I noticed some of those imbalances coming into play for myself. So I think if someone's
Wow.
doing it more at a recreational level with light bells, I don't think the rack position is something they need to worry about. That being said, if you're starting to train this constantly and this is your only modality of training, I do think it's something you have to be aware of to
Wow.
balance
So,
those things out.
so you saw it with yourself as well as with those clients that you have prepared for the comps. I think I've read it right on your website. You've prepared one, and she has reached Master of Sport, right?
Yes. So I've seen it. She was doing master sport in snatch. She achieved master sport in snatch. So she did do long cycle, but not quite as heavily.
Okay.
But I do think I did notice particular imbalances coming up, or there are
Wow.
certain injuries that people are prone to if they do kettlebell sport heavily. There's a lot of bicep injuries, there's a lot of shoulder injuries, there's a lot. It's usually not back from what I know, although I know some people do get like an upper back tweak or something. But
Upper back.
usually, I think it's often like bicep, shoulder,
Wow.
forearm. Like I had tendonitis on my forearm when I first
Wow.
started. And
Wow.
I think the other piece of it is that in my opinion, kettlebell sport training is not always balanced the way that it's programmed for people. So I think, like with anything in the fitness world, I think people have a tendency to overdo.
Word
And
up.
I think with sport, it's so easy to overdo because the point of the sport is to do tons and tons of reps. But
And
I
three
think you
lifts.
have to
And
be,
only three
yeah,
lifts,
and three
right?
lifts.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so the same lifts. And I think you have to be really mindful in
Wow.
how much do you really need? And I think there's been a lot of proliferation of the idea that you need to train like X amount of volume, you need to train this many days per week. And I'm not sure if that's really necessary or not.
Wow.
Now, I mostly trained 3 times a week with heavy volume when I was lifting in the sport. So that's the way that I trained, and it did work for me to a certain level, but it also, I, injuries and tweaks along the way, and eventually to a lot of burnout. So I think
Wow.
that there is a more sustainable way to do it, and that it probably doesn't require as much as people think it does, provided they allow themselves the rest and recovery that they need.
These insights, hearing it from an athlete, and me engaging in it, working as a coach, and drilling down into the niche of kettlebell training. And what we do is we just help people lose weight with some easy to follow nutrition and the power of kettlebells. And then I've started YouTube, and this thing seems to explode a little bit right now. So I'm really drilling on into the niche. So from my understanding of biomechanics and of how the body works, I was kind of thinking the same a little bit. I was like, okay, always racked in that hunched position.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned imbalances, and I, I was thinking like maybe you got these questions that I wanted to ask somehow in advance through telepathy or what's things telepathy. How did you say that?
Yeah,
Telepathy.
telepathy. Yeah.
Telepathy, right? Because I wanted to ask, does kettlebell sport take a toll on the body at elite level? And you're just confirming it. And I was thinking like, even with the guys, I mean, master of sport for women is 224s, right? So that's 48
It
kilos.
depends on the organization. I think
Oh.
there's some organization where it's 2 by 20, but it's so hard to keep track because everything changes.
Okay. Okay. With the men, it's 232s in probably most, maybe, with some differences. And then I was thinking, I mean, the 32s are heavy. And working with them, I never did it. I was like, maybe I got the guts, or maybe I had it if I would zone in and focus in and work with a pro coach to go all in on the athlete side of things. But I'm just kind of worried. I'm 37, so I'm like, man, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is, I mean, performing sports at an elite level is always, a little bit difficult. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it, consider subscribing if you want to see more kettlebell content. And if you're looking for a kettlebell program that builds you up from a beginner to a slowly advanced trainee in the course of about 3 months, and you maybe want to combine it with some easy to follow nutrition coaching because maybe you want to lose weight or you want to get in shape, then check out 90 Days of Kettlebells. You'll find the link in the description. 14-day free trial included.